Mike Golic Jr., an offensive lineman, so he can give some of that trenches perspective. He's joining us back on the home of America's team with Shan, RJ, and Bobby from Draftkings. Mike Golic Jr. on 105 through the Fan. Good morning, man. Did you enjoy last night?
Man, that was fun. We knew it was probably going to be a bit chaotic when you got that many quarterbacks up top. Wild stuff happens, but between all the trades and some, I think, really productive picks by a lot of teams, it was a blast.
What did you think about what the Cowboys did?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Mazi's a certified hoss, right? He was Bruce Feldman's freaks list guy. I got to cover Michigan a couple of times last year, and let's be honest, this is the Cowboys looking at the way their defense had operated for really the last couple of years and saying, we're tired of getting run on. We understand that maybe he doesn't fit the normal Dan Quinn prototype up front, but they want to get some beef to try and help them shore up the middle of that defense. So I heard you guys talking about they can keep turning Micah Parsons and the rest of that group loose on the quarterback. They've got enough guys to do that. They needed someone to do the dirty work, and Mazi Smith, physically and otherwise, is more than capable.
He didn't get a ton of sacks. Is that because he can't rush the passer, or they didn't ask him to?
They didn't really ask him too much. I mean, in Michigan, they're playing a lot of multiple fronts. They run some very NFL-style stuff, but their base is a 3-4. So you're not going to see a 3-4 nose guard have all that much production in the sack department. I mean, Jalen Carter, the best defensive tackle in this draft, wasn't a guy with otherworldly sack production on the inside. He had great pass rush ability, but I think there's a difference. And I think with Mazi, there's enough that shows up on tape that certainly shows he can be productive in that area, but I just don't think he was asked to all that much with what they lined him up for at Michigan.
Two-down player at number 26. How does that add up in terms of positional value to you? And stopping the run in a passing league.
Yeah, but I think what we've seen, especially in the NFC and specifically in the NFC East, right, what you can do in pro football, you got to win your division first. And so that means you're going to have to go through Philadelphia right now. And we know the way that team wants to operate. So you've got to cut off the head of the snake before anything else. That team is going to continue to try and ground and pound you to death with Jalen Hurts at the helm. And so you've got to be able to stop that. The NFC at large, you look at San Francisco out west. That's another team that's been a largely run-first outfit. We've seen around the league now, plenty, especially in these Shanahan-McVay tree areas, are going back to in a league where, all right, we've seen it spread out. We've seen it become a passing league. We've seen defensive bodies get a lot lighter, especially in the middle. They're saying, okay, we'll accordion this thing back, and we'll beat you up on the inside. We'll have plenty of pass potential. But now it's about being able to stop the run with also fewer bodies. Look at what Philadelphia has done with Jordan Davis and company there. You want to be able to stop the run with fewer guys in the box, and someone with Mazi Smith's size, strength, and ability gets you closer to that goal, and now you can free up more resources towards defending the pass, more bodies on the back end because of it.
Kind of expanding on what he can do in terms of what Mazi Smith does for other guys on the defense. Do you think getting a player like this is just as much about, hey, what he can do versus how he's going to be able to just naturally improve your linebacker play, just because you are going to be able to keep those guys cleaner and he is going to be able to eat up blocks and give them free runs?
Absolutely, and I think that's where we have to the notion of positional value. We talked a lot about it with the running backs in this draft, but I think it can also apply here a little bit. It's got to be about self-scouting where your team is at in its process, right? If you were to do this and you're the Dallas Cowboys who are nowhere near the idea of Super Bowl contention or trying to make playoff runs, it becomes a bit of a head-scratcher. But now all of a sudden, when you're trying to clean up the edges, you're not building foundations anymore. You're trying to hang stuff on the walls and make sure it looks nice. You want to make sure you're doing right by the other parts of that defense. This was, again, one of the clearest needs on this team was being able to do a better job in obvious situations, stopping the run, and you were exactly right. There's a trickle-down effect to everyone else around a guy like Mazi Smith. That's why nose guards in general. My Uncle Bob was a nose guard. He said it was like being a fire hydrant in a dog show. It's not pretty business, but much like being an offensive lineman, you got to look at the production that the people get around you to, I think, really have an appreciation for the job that someone in that spot's doing.
Mike Golic Jr. from Draftkings joining us here on the Diamond Factory Hotline, 105 through the Fan. How should Cowboy fans feel about what Howie Roseman and the Eagles did last night?
I mean, I think it's full like Breaking Bad. He can't keep getting away with this gif right now with what Howie's been doing there. Yeah. I mean, we already get the news before the start of the draft. They get the tampering pick after what happened with Gannon and the Arizona Cardinals. That should have tipped us off. But Howie has subscribed to what I think right now is the simplest take out of the box draft formula that you can follow. Draft Georgia defensive players. Like it really doesn't have to be much harder than that sometimes. And I think, again, this is another one, great understanding for them. They saw value in Jalen Carter coming down the board. And whatever the concerns, we've heard the character concerns, the work ethic concerns for people with Jalen Carter, you're bringing him into a place with a lot of stability, with a really good veteran in Fletcher Cox on that side of the ball. With Nolan Smith, same thing. You've got Hassan Reddick, who's the guy. I think most people looked at Nolan Smith and said, if we can get him to that point as a tweener that's got some pass rush potential, that would be stellar. So now you've got both of those guys learning from people already in the building, coming into a situation where there's great depth. There's no doubt the strong got stronger, and Cowboys fans should have winced a little bit seeing that because they got away with it once more.
What was your biggest surprise in the first?
I mean, probably Jahmyr Gibbs to the Lions as early as he went. Really, the Lions' first round in general, going linebacker and running back, especially. I understand you need defensive help, but this wasn't an inside linebacker, off-ball linebacker class that we really thought had a first-round talent in it. There were still quality pass rushers on the board, especially when they were up at 12 with the Jahmyr Gibbs pick. That was a backfield that got a lot of production last year out of the committee. Obviously, Jamal Williams has gone down now to New Orleans, and you were going to have to replace that somehow, but it just did not seem like fitting their chief need. And I get there's, best fit, best available, what do you need? But, I love a good running back going high in the draft. Love seeing Bijan Robinson go in the top 10. He's a top 10 talent. Jahmyr Gibbs is not far behind him, but that Lions team needs so much help on defense. That offense is not what kept them from playoff contention last year.
Who are the best three players on your board?
The best three players on my board, Bryce Young, Jalen Carter up top, who, again, I understood the concerns that existed and I understood the issues that we probably faced there, but I still thought he was among the best at what he did in the entire draft. And then Will Anderson Jr. I was also really heartened to see we didn't overthink that. We had all the Tyree Wilson smoke coming towards the latter stages of the draft cycle, and Will Anderson Jr. was one of those guys that had been so good for so long, I think we started to overthink it. This weird thing happens when we've got a lot of tape on guys coming out of college, where we go over it with a bigger, more fine-tooth comb than we do a guy with a year's worth of tape but a ton of ability. So I'm glad the the Texans didn't overthink this situation and that they got back up. They secured a cornerstone on both sides of the football and got themselves what I think is the best edge defender in the draft.